It's the time for the package from China. Let's go. I can tell you it's quite laughable, and I mean like the quality in general. I've picked it up like a very long time ago, and this thing is absolutely weird. It looks like an Xbox, but it isn't like nearly an Xbox when it comes to the quality. So inside it's all like a freaking cable nightmare because I bought it second hand. This was not actually packaged from China. I found it on the internet and I was like, let's take a closer look at it. So it comes with a very comfy 5-volt power supply, 1000 milliamp HDMI. The thing I personally what I liked were the controllers, because these were not super bad. The controls in general, like very cool translucentation, like it feels still very cheaply. You can even hear it, like it's absolutely really cheap quality, but not like the cheap one, the ones that are super chemical. They're still coming with the rubberized joysticks. The D-pad feels way too sturdy, so I really don't like it. And the A, B, C and D buttons are absolutely like cheap, horrible feel. I think the positive thing about the controllers are actually like the joysticks. Yeah. So when it comes to these China consoles, there was something they like need to rip off. And this time the Xbox One S is one of those. At the front we're going to get two USB ports for plugging in the controller. Oh, I tried some different controllers. It's absolutely like freaking nightmare finding other ones that will work on this. So at the front we do get like self the on-off switch. You would say like, hey, what's so special about the on-off switch? I can tell you with those like say game boxes nowadays, it's more like a gamble. Because they're making no on and off switches on some game systems nowadays. Yeah, you would say like it would be like a normal thing, but it isn't. But when you're looking at the back, what I found quite interesting with the system, that we do have like the option for HDMI and also AV out. An input over here, 5 volts for the power supply with a barrel jack, and we had the option to even add some games. Alright, so let's boot up the device itself. So the intro music, it sounds absolutely rubbish. It's, by the way, the Windows 95 and 98 intro. More like nostalgia. It's more like nostalgia. This is like the biggest retro part of it. But nevertheless, let's give it a good capture. So what you're going to get is basically the game and the SD card at the top. So yep, you can add an SD card and basically like implement extra files. And I mean, especially when it comes to game files. There's no way of emulator, like swapping or something like that. There's nothing you can do with it. We have Neo Geo, GBA, Super NES, Sega Mega Drive and NES. That's basically what this device is capable of running. If you're going to open up a game list, you have like this very basic menu with like just a gigantic list with some numbers. So what I understand of like what you see is like some of these like things are programmed and a couple of like items in it, but that's it. And yeah, I can tell you it's very limited. There is no setting option whatsoever. Only when you're loading up a game, you press select and start, you will bring you to the main menu. Here we have like the option to add frame skipping, kind of weird, okay, but button set, that can be set over here. So if you have any problems with the button configuration, and instant archive or quick load, quick save. And I'm gonna say that works pretty damn good. You can see like I can make a quick load and basically like doing quick save, quick load this way. You even can like make a save on your SD card. I think that's a pretty damn cool feature. The first test I wanted to do is basically like some beefcake and dinos. So just to see how MAME is running on this. But I can tell you it is not running very well. It does have like a lot of screen tearing, and the audio, oh boy, listen to it yourself because it's not great. It's unfortunate and general problem with the emulator itself. Like I think they're just running a bad emulator on this and there's no way of switching it out. And also Alien vs Predator will have the same freaking issues. And yep, we're still in arcade, but this time we're going to check out some Neo Geo. And unfortunate, also here we do have like the same issues. So I was hoping only MAME had issues, but also Neo Geo. Maybe it's running under the same emulator, and that's maybe the reason why it also had the same problem. and a little bit of bummer, and you can see some graphical glitches at the bottom part. So the emulation was just, in my opinion, a freaking nightmare on these X-Games 601 systems, and in the end it was just basically a waste of money. But after loading up with some game mode fonts, this is basically what happens. My game froze, and when I'm trying to boot up the system, it's absolutely dead. Yeah, so this is the quality what it is with the X-Game system. It's absolutely garbage to the maximum level, because it just froze and my full system is just unusable at this moment. A little bit bummer, nothing to do about it. So yeah, after the first shit show of products, it was absolutely garbage in many different ways. Not like 100%, more like 80%. They made a pro version, and I can tell you, they messed it up again. And that was more like the moment I was thinking, like, why do I make these videos? Oh yeah, to warn people. But also, like, when you're looking at the X-Game Pro, 800 to 1, the other was with 800 different, like, I think the other was come with 600. Yeah, there it was 600. Yeah, the game speed FPS 1-on-1 output, you know, like stuff like that makes you wonder, like, what were they thinking? Well, let's take a close look at it. But what are we going to get in the inside? So let's open it up. Alright, so we already did an unboxing of the X-Game system, and the Pro is basically like the newer model. So they are saying Pro, they love to make those names like Pro. Another thing you can already see, like normally we do have like maybe a fan in here, but you can already get a sneak peek, there's nothing in the inside. This thing was almost nothing. So what is also like a weird thing, sometimes we do get like okay controllers, but most of the time we do get like crappy ones. For example, these like Frankenstein PlayStation 2 knockoff ones. Like the D-pad is awful, like 4 separate buttons, but also it's absolutely garbage. The ABXY are okay, but they feel very stiff when you're pressing them in. And we do get like rubberized joysticks, but they are absolutely like the cheap quality. The unfortunate thing is with these freaking controllers, we do have USB, but it is not always told that you can use, let's say, a random Xbox controller for this. In the inside we do get an HDMI cable, a very cheap power supply. You look at this, it's already cracked, so that's how thin the plastic is. And of course we cannot even call this thing in like a freaking like a toilet paper manual, because that's it. That's the only thing that we're going to get. And of course the EV cable. So what I find quite interesting, that they are using these systems for like next generation, let's say monitors, or better said like IPS or LCD displays, but they can also use it for a CRT. Quite interesting choice if you ask me. So when you're looking at this model, they're still using, I think it's the same mold, only this one is completely black, where the previous one was white and black combination. So what are we going to get with the Pro? So if you're looking at closely, normally we do have like this ventilation over here, and you can mess around with the lighting. You can see there is nothing inside. This thing always weighs absolutely like maybe like a couple of grams. Here we do get like the 2 USB ports like the previous one. We do have like an on and off switch. And at the back we do get ourselves the old school, let's say the connection for a CRT. So it's pretty damn cool if you want to play it old school. Then we do get the input for the power supply and the HDMI. And we do have the option to add games. And seems to be there is an SD card in here. So basically you can sideload some games if you want to. Alright guys, so let's connect it. Let's see how bad the controller is and let's play some games. So let's take a close look at the menu itself. So we're only having like support for Capcom, Neo Geo, NES, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Classic, Super NES, Super Mega Drive, Sega Master System, Game Gear, and of course the PlayStation 1. But the PlayStation 1 is a kind of weird situation going on, because you can't even add games with the SD card, but it works not really great. I will show you later on this video what I mean with this. When you're basically booted up a game, pressing select to start brings you to this special menu. The only thing that we can do is making a quick load and quick save. A little bit of a bummer in my opinion, because I wish I had like more options for scaling and other things. Another unfortunate thing is like the games have like a shitload of screen tearing, and the audio in general is not great at all. Also the audio is like way off the problem that we had like in the beginning with these crappy boxes. What's kind of funny when you're looking at the Game Boy Classic, that we're going to get actually some pretty good, decent like emulation performance. Also they are using this weird filter when you're looking at it. It's not like the pixel perfect, of course it's stretched like hell, but it doesn't really look that bad on the screen when capturing it. But also with Game Boy Color we do get some pretty damn good performance, and they use a kind of filter again and it doesn't look that bad on a huge screen. Besides having like a shitload of screen tearing with some of the systems, I must say like the arcade stuff doesn't run really bad. So let's take a close look also at Neo Geo. But they completely messed up with the Super Nintendo 16-bit part, like with the Mega Drive.
You're right, the same team playing each other?
But PlayStation 1 is a little bit of a mixed bag, so when you're looking at the emulation performance, it's pretty damn good. When you go into the SD card, we can even like add new games, and there we're going to get the big issue. I did manage to get some games or some .img files to work. So out of nothing, one of my favorite games, a game can finally be booted up. So that is something, a very unique situation, because I had a lot of issues with a lot of these games. But there is something going on with the system I cannot really figure out at this point. So when we're going to try and .bin file doesn't boot up. Okay, so I'm looking into my file system, tried a couple of times, nothing boot up, black screen, and goes back into the main menu. For example, Gran Turismo is an EMG file like the other game, but again, nothing boots up. So there's something particular at the file, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't recognize all the other games. A little bit of a bummer, it's absolutely like a freaking nightmare here. So let's try another IMG file, and also this one doesn't boot up at all. When you're looking at the inside, it's kind of funny, because there is almost nothing in the inside. Pro my ass, because the Pro is exactly the same like the normal version I've reviewed before. Of course we will have like different mainboard, but I knew mainly particularly when you're looking at, let's say, the basic plastic fantastic console housing itself, it's the same kind of nonsense they're using. And of course we do have like the same functionalities with AV out, HDMI out. The mainboard have been improved in a couple of ways, but then again, like arcade did run way better than the previous model, but we still have like another issues with 16-bit that worked pretty damn okay on the previous one. So when you're looking at it, we do have like more systems to play, but in overall, it's not a better situation over here, and it's the same crap all over again. But yeah, they released a third model, and the weird thing is like we went from the X game to X game Pro, and now it's not an X game anymore. They just call this thing the HD game. It also comes with 800, and they still have like the same thing going on, like the game speed, FPS 101 output. The model is completely different now. It doesn't look like any like resemblance of an Xbox, like the Series S clone. But they did still this weird thing, like putting here the logos of PlayStation. You know, it's kind of messy. But let's take a close look at the inside. It's also like the Xbox systems from AliExpress. Yeah, that comes by many names, even like Soldier Boy. That was like a period in time that they like released Soldier Boy systems, but I never got myself this HD game version. Like this was the last one they basically released. It comes with the option to add a TF card, HDMI out, old school VGA out, and the input for the 5-volt power supply. So yeah, so this thing has a lot of things to offer, but is it any good? So it comes with a very strange cable, barrel jack to USB, but there is no power supply, what I can see. It comes with 2 chemical controllers, and yep, oh, these things smell very chemical. But let's take a look. It comes with an HDMI cable, and oh wait, I said it wrong. It comes with a power supply today, but this is a very cheap one. It weighs almost nothing. And then of course, the toilet paper manual. Like, what the hell is this? The design of the controller, I have seen it before from different brands, and the overall quality, you can already hear it, is absolutely garbage. Like the D-pad is bad, the button press, like very long travel buttons. The joysticks are okay, shoulder buttons are feeling really cheap. There's even like difference between the right and the left one. Like this is really bad, like it smells chemical, it comes with a very long cable, but absolutely like garbage. But what about the system? Yeah, what about it? So basically what you're going to get is an on and off switch at the front, 2 times USB. At the back, already shown you, we're going to get an input for the power supply, and we do have like the old school if you want to plug it in a CRT, HDMI out, and the TF slot. So that's basically it. Like this thing is not very heavy. We're also going to do a teardown later on this video, but let's plug it in first and let's see what we're going to get for the software and how good or how bad it is. Alright, so let's power it on and let's see what are we going to get with the boot up menu. I can say remember one of the first ones I've reviewed of the X series or the Xbox ones. I think this thing had like this weird like Windows 98 intro, but that's something they removed with the new edition. Okay, so what can we do with it? So basically what we can do is playing some arcade games. We have the option for 8-bit, 16-bit, and we also have the option to play some portable devices. So when it comes to the functionality, I think it's quite interesting, so we can do a lot of things with it. But the first one I have reviewed back in the day that had like the support for PlayStation was pretty damn rubbish. So I'm hoping that we can play some PlayStation 1 and if it's going to be working very well. So another thing I've noticed, like the menu seems to be working very nice and very fast. Another option I wanted to try out is the SD card function. So I just slapped in a random one I've laying around and just wanted to see if we can boot up some games. Because it had some issues back in the day, especially with PlayStation 1. But okay, so that's something we're also going to do. So the first thing that we're going to try out is some Capcom or Neo Geo. Let's see what happens if we're going to boot it up. You can see we do have a list. It basically shows the files internally with a tiny picture. Okay, let's play some games. Alright, so the first game that we're going to try is Pang. Just for fun, just to see what happens. Everything seems to be running fine. So far so good. You can hear like the audio is kind of weird, but... Okay, so we do have the option doing quick load, quick save, so that is pretty damn cool. So let's see what happens. And with load we can basically see like a quick preview. So everything works very fast, so that is very nice. Let's exit the game and let's try a different one. Alright, so next up, let's try a Neo Geo game. So far it's still good. I do see a lot of screen tearing going on sometimes. So that's quite unfortunate. But I don't see any major slowdowns whatsoever. Okay, so next up let's try some Famicom games. Oh man, this controller is freaking a pain in the ass to play with. I don't see any slowdowns. Do see the same screen tearing that we have seen before, but the overall performance is absolutely not bad. Okay, so where it mostly goes wrong is with the Game Boy Advance. You can hear that sound that is absolutely not like it should be. So the sound itself is absolutely messed up. I think the first one I've reviewed was a couple of years ago, and it seems to be like even this is a brand new model, they still didn't fix the audio issue. Hey, let's see if we're going to have like a shitload of screen tearing too. Wow. You can see like that it has like such a big audio delay. Wow. This runs like garbage. Wow. Okay, so the reason I wanted to test out this particular game, I know like also the handhelds from AliExpress have sometimes some issues with this. Yeah, and this is a great example like how bad it is. Really bad. I don't have like audio problems like with the GBA, but you can hear like it's still not like it should be. Something you don't see very often is Master System on these, let's say, cheaper boxes. Nowadays it's just a typical thing, especially with Super Console X. Alright, so let's boot it up. Bum, 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 bum. But also what is unfortunate, there's no aspect ratio option and nothing to do with it when it comes to problems. But here you can see like this seems to be running just fine. No sound delays. Audio sounds like it should be. I never understand this part, like Sonic on some flying rocket. Okay, so with the, I think it was the X Game 801, it's basically like version 2, that had a lot of problems with Mega Drive. Okay, so let's see what happens now. So where the thing was completely like unplayable, they seem to be fixing it with the new model over here. No weird sound effects, so let's play a part and let's see how all of these sound effects are. Alright. Okay, so that sounds very nice. Missed out the sound effect of the ring. Oh boy, yep, they messed up the three-dimensional part. So that's basically like the ultimate test for the Mega Drive part. And in my opinion, it failed. Okay, so with the other 801, when you wanted to add some PlayStation games, it was absolutely impossible to do so. So with the SD card, what you can do is like add your game through here. I think it's a pretty neat feature. I had this random card laying around, so when you're going to boot up a game, let's boot up. It boots up very fast. But the unfortunate thing is, you can see that it runs with an audio delay. So normally when you have an ePSXE emulator, I think it's running on that, you can just basically adjust it. I don't know if there is any way to fix it, but so far it doesn't work that great with audio. Because it's such a bummer that it has audio delay, because when you can see over here, the gameplay in general, it's a little bit slow, but it's up to the point that it's still playable in my opinion. Alright, teardown time. I know a lot of you will love this, so especially going to rip apart the thing, I must say, like, I also like it too. So we do get these very nice rubbery feet, so let's remove these. I already mentioned like this thing weighs like way lighter than the previous model. It's also like a little bit smaller, so I'm curious what they did in the inside. Is this thing any better, or is it like even worse than the previous one? Like I say, remember the other one like didn't have like a lot of parts on the inside, like this tiny board basically, and that was like the main, let's say, part of it, or the biggest part of the freaking case and the inside. But let's see what are we going to get with this one. I don't know if this fifth hole have a screw inside, or can we just open it up? And there's a screw in here, and I think I cannot reach it with a normal screw or with my special screwdriver. Can I? Oh yeah, I can. Oh, that one is tight, but I can still take it in. Alright. Can I open it up now? The construction also is quite interesting to see. Whew! Man, that's chemical smell. Alright, let's be very gentle. There is only one cable over here that goes to the front, I can just leave it in here, to the on and off switch and the power LED. So if you have seen my previous teardown, you know that this thing is very tiny compared with the other one, but still there is not a lot of stuff in the inside. So over here we do have the Xbox AV 2.0. It's made in 2017, so this is a really old stock they're using over here. So this is basically the ports at the front to USB. Everything connects to the main board over here. Alright, so let's take a close look over here. So I think one of them is this is the RAM. This is the chip itself, and here we do have like the flash storage that basically contains all of the games that are on here, because if I understand you cannot reach into the games. That's a little bit of a bummer. So here you can see like it says the ATM 7013 TV box 2.1. So this is indeed like a newer version that we have seen before. But the chip, that doesn't say anything to me at the moment, because this thing comes with the ATM 7013. If I find out the information, I will basically like edit it over here. But this is basically what we're going to get in the inside. It's nothing much, to be honest, like nothing really interesting, or it is interesting, but nothing, let's say, like fascinating to see, like with a special like chip inside, or a rock chip or something like that. Okay, so we do have like this tiny switch over here you can press for booting. I'm guessing that you need to have like a certain configuration to boot into something else when it comes to the boot sequence. But that's it, you know, like that's basically what you're going to get in the inside. But when you're looking at the X Games series, oh boy, they messed it up big time with this. And I can tell you, like, I think they're still selling these things. It's absolutely like crazy if you think about it. This new version, HD Game 801, is slightly better in many ways. It's still not perfect, and for the money, there are so many better options out there. I want to thank you for watching. Consider subscribing, hit that little bell, become a Wicked family, and it would be great to see you in the next video.